Hello everybody, I am Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, and we need to talk about Episode Aigis, the DLC for Persona 3 Reload, which is essentially doing the Reload version of The Answer, the old epilogue of Persona 3 Fez. In a lot of ways, The Answer is one of the most controversial elements ever added to Persona, and they're about to bring it back with Reload. And I just wanted to take a moment before it comes out in a few days to talk about my thoughts going into it. That way I can look back on them and see how they shift or evolve after actually playing The Answer for myself. Persona 3 has kind of been the odd duck out for me for the longest time. I had played 4 and 5, and I had seen people play 3, but I hadn't played it for myself until they ported Portable. And I know a lot of people out there love Portable, but for me, I don't think it does a compelling job compared to Fez and Reload at conveying the story of 3. Mainly because it devolves to just being a visual novel too often, and I think the cutscenes and the overall tone and pacing of those cutscenes does a lot to really hone in on the theme of P3, and just make those scenes resonate all the better. Oftentimes, one of the most under-talked about aspects to stories is the way you tell the story. And I think, especially with something like Reload, the thing I'm coming to realize is that these cutscenes do an extremely effective job of hooking you into what is going on in the scene, and they do a great job of pacing it, they do a great job of executing that information, and just telling a story in an effective way. And I've enjoyed P3 infinitely more in terms of a holistic story experience playing Reload than I did playing Portable. The way we respond to stories at the end of the day is always subjective, right? And I imagine there's gonna be a lot of people out there that very well may prefer the way Portable does it for whatever reason. And there's nothing wrong with it. I can just say, for me personally, 3 is hitting a hell of a lot harder with Reload than I did with Portable. I had seen the cutscenes from Fez, but what I think, especially for a Persona game, and especially 3, there's a world of difference between watching someone play it and playing it yourself. And I had never experienced The Answer entirely. I'd only seen a few scenes from it, and I know, like, the ending of it. So why is The Answer so controversial for a lot of people? It is a massive grind, at least it was before. It uses fresh progress, and you have to go through the new dungeon, and grind a lot in order to get to the end. And also, there's quite a few people out there that view the character development, or at least the character-centric scenes that happen in The Answer, to be contradictory to the development they received in the base game. Now, I know that is rather controversial, because with what The Answer covers, and I don't want to stray into the realm of spoilers too much, but with the theme of The Answer, I think it's understandable for some characters to act illogically and to act based on emotion. And I think there's never a time in someone's life where they act more illogically and act more based on emotional response than in response to someone's death. Especially if you truly cared about the person. It's a very human thing, so, I mean, I'll see when I play Episode Aigis just to see how I react to it. If I think it's a bit too much, or if I think it's perfectly done, we'll see. But I think they're doing something really clever, and that is seemingly adding more Link episodes into Episode Aigis. Because I think if Episode Aigis just evolved into, hey, pay $35 to grind a new dungeon and have this one big reveal job done, I think a lot of people would be disappointed at that. But adding new Link episodes goes into the strengths of P3 in my opinion, and one of the greatest strengths I'm coming to realize about P3 are the scenes the cast members have with one another and their dynamics with one another, even when it doesn't involve Makoto. And Episode Aigis is just not going to have him, so it can really lean into this element that I think makes 3 feel very special, at least in comparison to 4 and 5. That's not a knock on 4 and 5, it's just something that makes 3 feel unique because of how much emphasis it puts on scenes like that. Personally, one of the elements of Episode Aigis I'm most looking forward to isn't even the gameplay, isn't even the story. Good God, I want more of the music. I have been listening to this one song from the opening movie, Disconnected. I can't stop listening to this thing. It's so good, and I haven't even analyzed the lyrics yet. It's just the beat is so good. It's no secret that soundtracks are one of Atlus's biggest strengths, that they rarely, if ever, miss. I can't think of a single song from a Persona game that I dislike. Heck, I want to play P1 just for the song that plays while you're navigating the school. For the longest time, Persona 3 had been my least favorite of the big 3 Persona games, 4, 5, and 3. The way I had always viewed it was that 4 had my favorite characters while 5 had my favorite plot, mainly because I'm a big sucker for the third semester and for like the whole interrogation angle that 5 had going for it, and I think 5 had really good hype moments. 3 had some really cool characters to me, but there was nothing about 3 that really grabbed my interest outside of characters like Elizabeth and Aigis having their stories be so compelling. I think this was more a fault of just my experience with 3 up before Reload came out. Because remember, I'd only seen like the cutscenes from Fez, or like highlights from Fez, and I had played Portable. And I had one big glaring issue when it came to P3, and that was I thought the pacing in the first half, up until Aigis was introduced, was really slow, especially in comparison to 4 and 5. Like, the pacing there can be slow, but it's slow in different ways compared to 3, where most of the big story plot points don't come until the second half, if that makes sense. Also, I never liked Tartarus. I always thought Tartarus was kind of dull. I like it thematically, and I still do. I think they do a way better job with Tartarus in Reload, and also with the pacing. This is one of the big things that Reload has really addressed for me, and that is shoring up a few of the weaknesses that I had with P3. I wanted more character moments, and Reload is chock full of them. I wanted more fun Tartarus, and I don't think Tartarus is even all that good, but it is better for me. And they took away a lot of the grindy elements from Tartarus that I didn't like, so I can definitely appreciate that. And the whole pacing issue, it's not completely rectified, but because they introduce more scenes and scenarios with the characters earlier on, it smooths out that rough edge for me. It's not smooth completely, but it's not nearly as rough as it was before for me. And I think being able to experience P3 with the cutscenes, with the storytelling of Reload for myself and just playing the game at my own pace, doing what I want to do, it's really helped me appreciate what 3 is trying to do and what 3 does. And over the last couple of weeks as I got back into P3 after I took a little bit of a break to play Final Fantasy XIV for a couple months there, something's happened with me when it came to P3 that I'll talk about my full review once I actually beat the game later today, ideally, if not tomorrow. Everything's hitting harder. And when I'm looking at it, I'm looking at what are my favorite elements in all of Persona. Most of them are coming from 3 now. And like, maybe there's a bit of recency bias there, but things like the Junpei Chidori stories hitting way harder for me. Just like every scene, I think, is being told better for me. Or just, it's being told in a way that resonates with me better than it did before. And with all of these elements just hitting harder for me, the funny consequence of this is it's making me more interested in Episode Aigis. I was never too pumped for it because I've just viewed it as, oh cool, it's gonna be the answer with a Reload coat of paint. But now that coat of paint is looking way more shiny to me. And I still do kind of hold on to that kind of conspiracy theory that's gone around the community that I've talked about before, that I do think they're gearing up to eventually expand on the story of P3, whether that's in like a Persona 3 Strikers or it's just in Persona 6 or something. I'm not saying it's likely to happen, I'm just saying if they eventually do, it makes sense why they're putting so much emphasis on 3 especially, because they want us to know these characters, they want us to know this story. It's one of those things, and I talked about this on stream, where if they don't do anything with it, I don't think too many people would complain, but if they do something, we can look back and say, oh, okay, they were really trying to gear up a lot of people to understand what they wanted to do, to give them this bank of knowledge that they can work with in the future. They were putting the pieces of the puzzle down on the board, if that makes sense. I think Reload and Episode Aigis especially has something else really going for it that I didn't put too much stock in before, but as I've been deep diving 3 again, I'm coming around to, and that is Reload's combat is really damn good. And Episode Aigis is essentially saying, hey, you like the combat? Here's a new character. We're gonna give Aigis the wild card, have some more P3 combat, and you know what? That might just be enough for me. On top of new additional character scenes, I think the voice direction on the whole with Reload is so much better than where it was before with 3, which helps a lot for these character moments and scenes. I really like all the voice acting in Reload. It has a couple hiccups, but nothing too severe for me. So when it comes to Episode Aigis, the main thing I'm noticing is this kind of 180 I'm doing in regards to my perspective on Episode Aigis. And I'm glad it's happening, where I was disinterested in it before, and I wasn't that big of a fan of the story of the answer. I always thought the whole door thing was kind of stupid. Like, I got what they were going for. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. I just thought it was kind of stupid. But I really want to see how they tell it here. And I really want to see these additional scenes that Reload Episode Aigis is likely to have. Because I think Episode Aigis is kind of leaning into all of the elements that I'm really coming to like about Reload. That is the additional Link episodes and the combat. It's kind of putting me into a whole, like, Persona mood again, where it's largely the only series I really am thinking about right now. And not gonna lie, kind of nice of them to have Metaphor come out a month afterwards. That's just really gonna help fuel my interest, you know? I can segue quite nicely into that realm. So yeah, I want to hear all of your thoughts. Did you love the answer before, or were you kind of indifferent, or if you even disliked it? I want to hear your thoughts and how you're feeling going into Episode Aigis. You looking forward to it? You not looking forward to it? You kind of indifferent about it? I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions and to hear your perspectives. And let me know also who your favorite character in P3 is. For me, it's Elizabeth and Aigis. And funnily enough, those are my two favorite characters in all of Persona. I think my top 5 favorite characters would go something like Elizabeth, Aigis, Kanji, then like maybe the MCs. Narakami, Makoto, Joker, something like that. I think that would be my list. But I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions and hear your perspectives. Stay safe, have a great day. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Till we meet again!